right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to a brand new segment of The Bill Show. I appreciate you tuning in. And if I look excited, it's because I'm really excited to kick this off. In fact, this is our very first episode. And when I say our, it's our first episode of what we're going to be calling Phlorida Phun. And Phlorida Phun, in our case, is spelt with a PH. And that's because, oh, and by the way, I did say we. And I said we because joining me in this new adventure is one of Philly's funniest. I'm proud and happy to welcome aboard Maria Elena. Maria, welcome aboard.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks for talking me into doing this held at gunpoint.
Well, the gun wasn't loaded. Let the record show. The gun was not loaded. And it
That's
was a water
true.
pistol. I mean, come on. But
I mean, we are from Philly.
yes, we absolutely. So it felt just like home. But Maria, like myself, we're now down in Southwest Florida, and we decided it was time to do some fun new stuff, create some fun new content. And one of the things we wanted to do was have some conversations with some great people. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now. And I want to thank Maria for making this happen. And I'm going to toss it over to her because she didn't come by herself. She brought along a very special guest, didn't you, Maria?
Yes, and life does come to full circle. It's crazy. I'm so excited. We have such an awesome guest today. Um, just want to preface, definitely from a funny family. I met our guest when my father and I worked part-time on a show that most people will know, that is running today, but Tony and Tina's Wedding. And this guest is one of the hardest workers that I remember while, working the shows and just spending family time and friend time. Well, we all became family. We were a family. This guy was working all the time, practicing. And I think it's why he is who he is today, because he never stopped. So I'd like to welcome actually an Emmy nominated actor, writer, comedian. Basically, he does everything. Right now, a lot of people know his impressions are just amazing, and we'll get to that. But all the way from Vegas, originally from Philly, I'd like to welcome John D. Domenico.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
I see
Thank you
John's.
for that
It's
great
good to see you.
introduction.
Oh, thanks.
It's
Well, it's all
great.
you.
Yeah. You and I go all the way back to 1989, which I find amazing. It's just so
Oh my
incredible.
gosh.
You met in
Take me back.
kindergarten?
Yeah. She was young.
I was young.
Yeah.
I don't even think. No, I was thinking about this. I remember the first time chatting with everybody at the bar in South Philly, and I couldn't even drink.
Oh, wow. That's
I
amazing.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, I don't know if you know the background on this. First of all, thanks for having me on. But her dad, who was a Philadelphia cop, also a magician, also a very funny, just a great comedic actor, was cast as Vinnie Black. Vinnie Black owned the catering hall in Philly. This is all fictitious, which was above Toronto's, which was the mob restaurant in Philadelphia. And when the people who put Tony and Tina's together, artificial intelligence, it's like eight improv actors. When they started it in New York, they wanted to be as if it wasn't a show. You didn't necessarily have a ticket. You were on a checklist and you went to the church right next door. And then you walked around to the catering hall. You met Vinny and his team. That was Maria, Sharon Geller, a bunch of other people. And you experienced the evening. It was truly one of the first experiential shows on a big scale and in multiple places. And, Gene's character and the woman who played his wife were just so perfect, and he was a boss because he had a catering hall in South Philly, and his attitude and the way he played it was so good, and he underplayed it because it could have been so easy for him to be, hey, how you doing in South Philly, but Gene played it so close to the vest. Everything was believable. Everything he did, every choice he made as an actor. And the show was 3.5 hours long.
Wow.
Three and a half. You had the church part, which was like 20 minutes. Then you moved over to a real wedding reception. And people always asked us, well, how do you know where to be? And my character was Tina's brother, gay brother. Um, and the way we knew where to be is in each song, beginning, middle, and end, you had to be in a specific place at the beginning of the song, in the middle of the song, and at the end of the song. And you had time in those songs to say, as my character was talking to someone, oh, excuse me, I've got to be over here. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. So,
Right.
but that way, that's how people move. They knew they had to be somewhere. So the engine of the show was this great band. God, I forget his name. Oh, we're friends on Instagram and Facebook. Tony something, but he had this massive shock of hair, and it was real. And because it was a late '80s band, a late '80s cover band, and the female singer and the guitarist in the band looked like Ken and Barbie. They were brother and sister. So it
Oh
was
Wow.
it
gosh,
was
they
a
were
great run.
great times.
Yeah, great. Oh
Oh,
my God, so much.
I
And
have to ask you, what was the fun? I mean, I remember the shows that I did, and I just did it part-time, but um,
8 shows a week. It was your
yeah,
life. The show was your life,
it
literally.
was your like, yeah, wait, everybody became family too. It was incredible.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I became so Daryl, Haysham, and Chrissy, who were playing relatives, ended up getting married.
Yeah.
Um, and that a couple of couples got married from the show because we were working so intensely together for a year. And it was very interesting because it was a family. And on Saturdays and Sundays, the show, like I said, is 3.5 hours long. And we did 2 shows Saturday and 2 shows Sunday. So you're essentially giving up your life. We had Mondays off. And we had Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, 2 shows, 2 shows. So you were with these people constantly. And just the rehearsal process to get this show down took months. So it was, yeah, we were very, very close. I loved your dad. I learned so much from him. He was so great, you
Well,
know.
mom and dad say hi, and they're excited
Yeah.
to see this. But yeah, they were just incredible years, and just living in Philly, it was so cool because when I would bring people to the show, or people would say like, "Oh, that's the show." Da da da. I want to bring a guest, but I don't want to tell them it's a real wedding. They're like, could you like mess around with them? So I would, get their names and we would mess with them the whole show because this was a wedding where everything wrong went wrong plus. It was just on steroids and it was a blast. The
Yeah.
cops were there a couple times,
For real. There was a shooting
For real.
downstairs. There was a mob hit downstairs, and the cops came up, and the audience was like, this show is so authentic. So amazing. They look like real cops. Like they are real cops. There's a murder. But
Remember the one night people were smoking you guys went down to Chinatown to get the fake weed
yeah.
smell and you guys were smoking or part of the actors were smoking in the bathroom and the cops came in and my dad you can't break character but my dad
No,
was like,
we
hey
kill
guys,
it.
this is like from Chinatown, it's not real.
And you mentioned something. We had, after the show was over, we didn't have a stage door, but all the actors, it was like a 30-person cast, ended up at the bar on the second floor of Toronto's. And if people wanted to wait around to get a photo, it wasn't as common then because it wasn't on people's phones, but people would wait around and get a photo. And this one couple was there, and the guy waited till a decent number of us there, and he said, she didn't know. She didn't know. He goes, I was here like a month ago and I brought her and I said, listen, I I have to do this. This is for a client. He buys a lot of our stuff. So he brought this girl and she was like, what the hell is wrong with these people? And because you never saw a ticket, there was never anything but a checklist. She assumed it was real from the moment at the church through the entire mass, to the wedding mass, around the corner, up the steps, champagne toast, pasta, salad, cake, strippers, the priest passing out, the nun making out with somebody, the ex-boyfriend crashing it. she just thought it was legit. And that's how we knew. I mean, we knew it was a hit because we sold out. But when people spent the entire night there and like, I thought this was real.
Wow.
It's so great. I swear I
Yeah.
still have great memories, great dreams, and I often think how my life would be now if I still remember when I went to the premiere. I had a blast, and I was just a guest then. And the next day, I think I stayed out with you guys and stayed over, and everybody was drinking and eating hoagies, till 4 o'clock in the morning. My parents were waiting for me because they left the car down there so I could drive home the next day. They were sitting there like, Maria, what happened? Was it fun? Was it fun? I'm like, it was awesome. We had so much fun because we were younger, right?
Yeah, it was
And
amazing.
my dad got a phone call from, is that Larry Pellegrini? Was he the
Yeah, Larry,
director?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, he was the director and
Oh,
one of the original members of artificial intelligence. By the way, all those people made a lot of money.
oh yeah.
Made a
Oh,
lot
I'm
of money.
sure.
Larry and his boyfriend live in Hawaii. That's how
Oh,
well they did.
well,
Yeah.
Larry called my dad the next morning and they were on the phone like whispering. And I thought, oh God, I was drunk last night. No, after the show. After the show. And I wasn't working the show. I was a guest. I was a guest. And I had so much fun. And he said to my dad, hey, would your daughter want to understudy for Tina? And I always
It would have
wanted to
been
be an
great.
actress, but my dad was like, you're going to college, you're going to college, you're going to college. And I think I was maybe at the end of my junior year, I had one more year left. And my dad hung up the phone. He was like, okay, we have to talk. Because I think part of him was like, maybe she should go to college. And he just laid it out there and he said, whatever you want to do. And you know what? I guess I did the right thing, but I said, if I don't finish and get my degree now, I'll never go back.
Nope.
And so now, though, I finished college, and now at 57, I'm back in show business, and it's fun.
Yeah,
So
there you
It's like
go.
a
anyhow, I had to bring
virus.
that
It's
up.
like a virus. It just
It
pulls
is,
you
it is.
back in. You want to get out. You just end up back on stage
I It
performing. It's
feels so good. It
yeah,
feels really good. So I have to ask you, and really fast, and then we'll move on because I
yeah,
know we have a lot to
yeah.
talk
We
to
don't
you
want to
about.
talk about Tony Tinas.
I know, because we could do like 3 hours, three and a half. What was the funniest thing that happened that you remember?
I think it was that couple. Well, I think it honestly was that couple. It wasn't the funniest thing that happened to me, but I just thought that was the greatest moment. I just thought that was so awesome because so many things are so memorable. What was her name who used to dance on the bar at the end? Who was Marion, the dancer, but
Oh
she's
yeah.
yeah, she
I
played a
can't think of her.
stripper and she ended up on the thing. There were just so many amazing memories. My real memory, my most memorable thing is not a happy memory. But that has to do with the producer. So that's something else entirely when we moved to Atlantic City. So, but
Okay.
overall, it was so great and so positive, and I learned so much as an improv. I had already been in numerous improv companies in New York City, but this to do it every single
Wow.
night, and I had done a really. All of us had to write a bio for our characters. And my bio was right down to the house I grew up in, which was not far from Toronto's. And I did a lot of research because I had to anchor this. So I was looking for somebody who wasn't like over the top gay, who was an aerobics instructor. I found a guy and I said, listen, I'm playing this role. I'm straight, but I really want to deliver this character. He's closeted, but his boyfriend's there as the photographer. So I did
Mm.
so much research and I always would go back to my notes like, who am I? Who am I? And I always had a complete history. But the funny thing was, I remember we were about 3 months into the production and I thought, I'm starting to know who this character is. I'm you think you have a character very early on in a process, especially doing it 3 hours a night, 3.5 hours a night. But it wasn't until about 3 months in, I was like, I knew who this guy is. I can react. I can react in character now, and I can be consistent across the entire show. And one of the things that our Larry wanted and the producers wanted was we want it to be real. Do not go for
Real.
the joke. The humor will come from the characters and your interaction with the wedding guest. It was never called an audience, the wedding guest. And they drilled that into our head. And sometimes you're in improv companies and it's always the joke, the joke, the joke. And Second City and Austin City Limits and a lot of the other big. I was with Some Assembly required in New York, and they were like, do not go for the joke. You'll destroy what you're working on. Always go for the character. The humor will come from the character, not from the joke. And I thought that was so valuable. And like I said, they drilled it into our heads. But Tony and Tina's wedding for me was like high school and college all rolled
Right,
into one, because it
right.
was so much work every single night. And I would be done and I would be two things. I'd be exhausted and high as a kite. So that I'd go out with Joe Dallo and we go to a comedy club and get like a late night set in, because we were so amped up. I couldn't come down from performing at three, you know what I mean, for 3.5 hours. It wasn't even like a regular show. You're
Right.
interacting and picking up people's energy all night long. So it
Yeah, it
was
was,
fascinating.
oh my gosh, so much fun. So much
Yeah.
fun.
Wow.
Take me
Yeah.
back. I think you guys invented method acting.
I'd been in New York studying acting, so I took everything that I had learned there to apply it to this.
Right.
And the fact that they did want it to be real helped so much.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I have to say, as someone who knew of that particular show, I didn't know all of those bits and pieces of incredible information that you guys just shared. And it just sounds like a pretty amazing experience. And I really
Oh,
appreciate you both sharing those memories of it and all those factoids that, like I said, I had no idea being from Philly. And John, I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to kicking off. In addition to this being a new segment, we also have a new portion of the segment that I'm looking forward to kicking off with you. And it's called 3, 2, 1.
Mhm.
But before I get to that, I need to make a comment and then ask you another question. The comment is, want to thank you for rocking the Temple t-shirt there. That's the PH there in Philadelphia. There it is. He could have gone anywhere. He chose
Could have
Temple.
gone anywhere. I went to a demilitarized zone in North Philly.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. But
My brother came to visit me. Like the first after I transferred, we wake up the next morning. His car's gone. It's gone.
oh,
oh,
He's
uh,
gone.
just another day at Temple.
welcome.
It's another day.
Oh my God.
And
Oh,
I was broke when I went there. I mean, I was broke. I used to buy a hoagie roll at the Owl's Nest next door, which was like a little, cheesesteak place and challah and everything. I'd buy a roll for 25 cents and it would just be like peanut butter and jelly. And I was living at a fraternity house. I couldn't even afford the meal program.
wow.
Oh, God.
I
Wow.
remember those Temple days well myself. So
Oh my
before
Lord.
I get into the 3, 2, 1, John, I have to ask, because like Maria brought up in the very beginning, all the different hats you wear, all the different things you've done, from being an MC, host, speaker, comedian, actor, impersonator. Is there anything you don't do?
I have ADHD. I knew I had it from the time I was a kid. I was diagnosed when I was, I think 30 something. But when I was a kid, and I remember watching movies and TV, and I was doing impressions at 5 years old. I would do them for my neighbors. They would all be sitting out. It was a row home neighborhood. I would come out now right here in our shoe. I would do Ed Sullivan. I would do John Byner's Ed Sullivan act.
Oh,
But I was
my
one of
John
God.
those
Biner.
kids, like people who go, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a fireman. I was like, I want to do everything. I want to direct and I want to write and I want to shoot it and I want to do this and that. And
Yeah.
movies seemed fascinating to me and TV seemed fascinating. And it just seemed like I just wanted to do everything, which may have hurt me to a certain extent and may have been helpful to be more centered
Hmm.
on something. But you only know what you know. And coming from a non-performing family,
Hmm.
you everything was a learning process. Absolutely everything. It would have helped if my dad was a steel worker with a ninth grade education who was a World War II veteran. So he was like 40 plus when I was born, and he wanted me to work at Standard Press Steel in Glenside.
Hmm.
So it wasn't, it wasn't like get out there and be an entertainer, because he had no idea. He didn't know how to help me in that. So I always wanted to do everything. But as I got older, and I was very lucky. I mean, I've done commercials and I've done movies and I did off Broadway, and I was over time you start to evolve and move into an area where you're like, oh, I didn't know about this. I like this. And the biggest change for me was in 96. A friend of mine, Mario Giampaglia, who I'm friends with to this day. I was not friends with him at that time. He worked for a production company called ACG Aniform, and they did big sales meetings. And he saw me performing in New York doing stand up, and he said, "Hey, gave me his card and said, can you come to my office on Monday?" And I sat down with him. We had a great conversation. And he said, "I do what's called national sales meetings." He said, "Do you know what that is?" And I said, I can kind of figure it out." And he said, "Basically, they're all the same format. Every major company you can think of has a sales meeting, especially if they sell something." And he said that, opens on a Wednesday night with a reception. They have a general session, which is where all the big wigs talk. And then they have breakouts. And in the evening, they have a reception, and then the next day the same thing. They might have a team building event, and they do another thing on the other night, and then they have a big award ceremony on Saturday. That template is pretty much what I've worked with since 96.
Hmm.
And I booked this meeting. Now mind you, I was doing stand up at this time, making pennies, like
Nothing.
nothing.
We know.
Nothing. And I mean, I was driving to Dayton, Ohio to play at the Chuckle Hut and the Bananas in Pittsburgh, and I have to drive there myself. And we had the Comedy Condo, which was like a shooting gallery for heroin addicts, and all these things. You're paying the tolls, you're paying your gas, and I was like, this is not what I thought this was going to be. I never really considered stand up beyond like watching stand up comedians on television. And when I started doing clubs, Andy Scarpati was different. All the local clubs and the comedy
Oh,
cabarets were
we
very,
love Andy.
yeah, Andy's great. And he really was smart and he was very consistent. But what most comedians, when people get into comedy, especially when I was getting into comedy in the late 80s and in the early 90s, professionally, was that no two comedy clubs are the same. None.
Absolutely.
None. The sight lines are different. The sound systems are different. The owners are different. And most of them can't stand comedians. I had one owner say to me one time, he said, "If I could figure out a way to make money to sell food and booze without you guys, I'd be more than happy." And I remember thinking, that's the mindset of the comedy club owners. Unless it was, the Improv and some of these other places I was very, very lucky to play. But that was not, those are the exceptions. Most of the clubs were just shitty. And the guy'd screw you out of $50 if he could. And so I'm meeting with Mario. He basically says, during these meetings, I have an MC host. And he says, "I don't want you for that," but he goes, "Maybe down the road at some point." But he goes, "I want you to host a game show. I really loved what you did. You did a Groucho
Oh,
impression. And I want you to host the game as Groucho." Now, mind you, now no Salesforce in the world would know who Groucho is. But this was 96, and there was still a bit of relevancy to the character. And he said, "You'll fly down on Wednesday. You'll do the game show on Thursday afternoon. You can stay the night, and they're going to fly out on Thursday." He said, "How much would you like for that?" And I'm in my mind like doing comedy club money, and I'm like, 1,200. And he's like, I'm negotiating with him. He's like, I'm like 1,500. He's like 2,000. He's like 2,500. And I'm like, I'm thinking I'm way, way, way out. He goes, let's just say 2750, right?
Wow.
And I remember this is 96. And I was like, wow. And I said, and I have to get myself down there. He goes, no, of course not. We're going to book your flight through the travel division of Sony, and we'll have a car service for you,
Oh,
and we'll have you at the oh my God. So anyway, I fly down. I think they flew me down first class, and it was the first time ever flew first class. I arrive, first time someone's holding my name. First time. So I break down in tears.
oh my
So,
God.
and the guy says to me, he says, listen, I hope you don't mind. He goes, we're all out of town cars. You'll have to go to the hotel in a limo. I'm like, mind? You think I
Oh, wow,
mind a limo? So we drive to the Swan at Disney, which at the time in the mid 90s was the hotel for corporate meetings. So
mm-hmm.
I get to the hotel. I'm like, oh my God. I'd literally been staying at like motels, Red Roof Inns and all these types of places. So I check in, I go up to my room, I sit down, I'm like sitting on the bed. I'm like, oh, this is it. Phone rings. Says, hi, John. This is Angela. I'm your PA. I've done enough extra work. And she goes, I'll be your PA. I'll be with you the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, someone assigned to me. She says, there's going to be a meeting downstairs in 15 minutes. It's a roundtable meeting. I said, great. So I go downstairs and everybody's introducing themselves. And the guy says, hi, I'm Bob Evans. I'm the director of this meeting. I just finished up directing so-and-so on Broadway. And I also directed blank on Broadway. And then the next guy, the lighting guy, is like, hi, I'm Scott. I just wrapped up blah, blah on Broadway. And I'm going to be the lighting person for the. And they went around. Everybody had worked on Broadway, literally had just come from Broadway. So first off, I was like, because I was a theater guy along with doing comedy. I was like, oh, this is where all the Broadway people go when they're not doing a Broadway
Hmm.
show. And I learned they
Wow.
made more money doing corporate. So I'm
Wow.
like, holy crap. So they go around to everybody, the writer, and they finally get to me, and everyone's going through their credits. And they're like, John, you're going to be our game show host. Where would we have just seen you recently? And I said, well, I was Barney at a kids' party on Sunday in Deal, New Jersey. And I said, and I'm not kidding. And it was the truth. I'd literally done Barney for like $100. I love you. You love me. But here I am at this thing, and I'm like, there is a whole nother world, a universe I didn't know
Yeah.
about a day ago. So I went back to my room that night and I took my comedy notepad, my legal yellow pad, and I put a line down the middle. I wrote down every single company I could think of and every city. And I said, that's where my money is.
Hmm.
That's where
Uh-huh.
my money is. My money's not in comedy clubs. My career's not in comedy clubs. My money's here. I get to work with great teams in incredible hotels, make great money, and everything's done in advance. We're rehearsed. Everything down to the minute is timed. Everything is, it's like a theater, it's a theater atmosphere. And I told my booker at the time, a couple of stand-up comedy bookers. I said, I'll finish out whatever I have, but don't book me on anything else. I see the future. The future is here. And within a year, all I was doing was corporate. All I was
Wow.
doing. National sales meetings, merger meetings, trade shows, and I made a fortune. I bought 3 homes and I was working and I was perfecting my voices and I was on stages in front of 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 people. It was for every major corporation. And that was like the smartest move. And I didn't even know it existed. And then
Wow.
I'm getting to meet really well-known people who are like the guest speakers and the keynotes and celebrities they bring in. I was like, oh my God. So it was an incredible run. 9/11 kind of was hurt it, but it bounced back. But the housing crisis really affected it. And the funny thing now is the one of the reasons that I loved getting into corporate was not just the money and the great camaraderie and the professionalism, was that they used to book these meetings a year in
Oh
advance.
yeah.
And I would look down my calendar and go, oh my God, this year, 2000 is already booked out.
Yeah.
That whole year is booked, and it was absolutely amazing. Now, now, exactly the same as comedy, acting, and everything else. They won't pull the trigger. The economy is struggling. They don't want to make decisions. It's amazing how it's changed. But I was so glad I was in the right place at the right time because I got to do Dr. Phil. I had developed a Trump thing. So I was doing a scalable Trump apprentice game, and I was roasting people. I was doing a lot of roast work. I'd come in and roast people as Lieutenant Columbo. Folks, I hate to bother you. So on that closing night award show, I'd interrupt and roast the C-suite. When The Sopranos got popular, I created a character called Johnny Soprano, and he was taking over the company. And it was like the right time, and I got to really blossom as a writer and a performer. And I was so, so lucky, and anybody who's doing stand-up now, like you, Maria, it is a tough business. Stand up
It's
is
hard.
tough. It is
Hardest
hard.
thing I ever did.
And it's not like singing. You can sing in your shower and you can perfect your voice and you can practice with a coach. Stand up is the only thing
Hmm.
where you absolutely, positively have to be in front of an audience. You have to
Yeah.
be in front of an audience. You can do the 8 o'clock show and kill and do the 10 o'clock show and you bomb. And you're like, what the, what? I, it's me. It's the same material. But they sense there's this weird group think that happens with a comedy club audience that doesn't happen with any other audience. They have a group think, and in 7 seconds they make a decision on you. Yes, you're funny, and we like you. You're not funny. Get the f off the stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Just had that happen to me yesterday.
Yeah, and you have to plow through it because you're funny because you've had other audiences laugh at your material. It is the
Right.
oddest thing. They have this sixth sense about comedians and stand-ups. It's very strange.
I want to kick off that segment I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's the 3-2-1. I'm going to do the three, then I'm going to toss it over to Maria for the two. But with the three, and we've learned so much already, about you and all the great things you've done and everything, and I appreciate all of it. But the three is, what would you say are three things that you would want people to know about you?
The three things, and I talk about this, I don't talk about it in stand-up, but I had a severe speech impediment as a child. And I was doing impressions at 5. When I did the impressions, I didn't have the impediment. And when I would speak, I sounded like Elmer Fudd, Tweety Bird, and Sylvester the Cat. Did you notice a lot of the Looney Tunes characters have speech impediments?
Yeah.
Did you notice that? But I basically everything in my mouth was too big, so I kind of like death when I talked. So I got teased and all those type of things. But when I did the impressions, it kind of went away, which kind of fascinated my mom.
Wow.
She was like, "Oh, this is weird." When I got into first grade, they diagnosed me, and I did 8 years of speech therapy, and
Wow.
that gave me the mechanics
Hmm.
to do voices. And and the thing is that's like it's throat placement 1 to 10, nasal placement 1 to 10, jaw placement, tongue placement was the most important thing to me. When I do my winning voice presentation, I say to people immediately, "Where's your tongue?" And people are like, "What? What are you talking about? Where's your tongue? Where's the resting position for your tongue?" It's a very important thing. You don't when I talk about the human voice, people do not think about their voice because they cannot hear their voice. It's a neurological thing, and it's also the way the human head is built. First thing they taught me was how to hear my voice. That way I could modulate it and change it. And the perfect example I always say is Trump, because Trump does this thing where first they used to teach me to over enunciate. And they would have me go high and very low because I'm the greatest president in the history of presidents, other than the late, great Abe Lincoln, whose wife was maybe a 3. Maybe a 3. But it was all this slowing up, slowing down, slowing up, over enunciating, pulling back in. And when I do any voice, doesn't matter if it's Dr. Phil, what were you thinking? You got to be thinking about where is my tongue and where is my jaw and where is the air coming out when I'm speaking, because your head becomes like this piece of amplification. So if I'm doing Austin Powers, baby, yeah, I'm pushing my voice out here. But if I'm doing like an Aussie accent, I'm pushing the voice out right here through my voice, like Russell Crowe. I'm Genius Maximus Millionaires, whatever, because all the Aussie guys have a voice that's real chesty and low. So that was one thing I want people to know it, because I'm an evangelist for the human voice. The overwhelming majority of people only use 38% of their vocal capacity and vocal range because they haven't been trained on how to use it. And I always say, if you only use 38% of your body, you be on the floor right now. So my goal for the next 45 minutes when I'm speaking is to get you to utilize your voice. It is what we use every single day to persuade, to influence, to connect. It doesn't matter if you're talking to your child or your spouse or your employees or your voice. If you're not using your voice to its fullest range and capacity, you're leaving money on the table. And I don't mean money in currency. I mean the currency of relationships.
All right, Maria,
Yeah.
take us
Well,
to.
I guess, am I doing the number two?
Yes, you
You're
are.
doing a number two?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing the number two right
Are
now.
you doing a number two? Number two?
And the
Really?
funny thing is,
Really,
I
Scott?
can't see it, but you can.
Yeah.
The
A little
show
private
must
joke
go
there.
on.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I'm going to wrap up two questions in one. But so John, just tell us what you're doing right now, and for your fans out there, if there's anything public besides some corporate and keynote meetings, which I know you do a lot.
Yeah.
What are you doing now? And I want to know how many people were there last night in Vegas at that amazing room.
In that room that we had over 500 attendees for that event. So that was great. And I did some impressions. I love doing those events. And, being here in Las Vegas, something you may not know, there's literally a gala every night.
Oh
It,
my
it is
gosh.
it is crazy. There are so many philanthropic organizations, and a couple of years ago, you like with intention, I said, I live here. I get a lot of press because of when I first got here, I was on a lot of TV shows, and I was on Conan and James Corden and Kimmel and all those things, which was incredible. But I like no one knew me here, and I said, you know what? Even if I have to take a hit financially, I'm going to start doing award shows here. I'm going to let people know that I'm here in Las Vegas. And that was for Touro University. It's the largest medical school in Nevada, and they're also in New York and a bunch of other places. This Saturday night, I'm hosting the Silver State Awards for the fifth year. This is for the
Wow.
entire state, and this is the women's division. There's a regular division, and we honor the outstanding leaders, innovators, teachers, entrepreneurs of the entire state of Nevada, and artists too. We're gonna have Debbie Gibson there, who I love, who lives here in Las Vegas, who's absolutely amazing. And these things give me the opportunity to mix both things. I can be an MC host, also do some comedy, but keep the meeting moving. If you want to find me, I've kind of stratified all of my social media. So if you want to see all the Trumpish stuff, the short comedy is on TikTok. I've got 6 million followers there. Those are 30-second comedy bits. Long form is on my YouTube channel. And then my regular Instagram is more towards hosting and content for speaking. Everything's the Johnny D Show. Everything except YouTube, which is the Johnny D Show one, because somebody else got it. But we're going to take care of this guy. We're going to get rid of him. But everything's pretty much pretty much under that. So I kind of balance it with comedy and speaking and hopefully words of wisdom, which is something I'm moving into.
No, and
Awesome.
yeah, and I'll tell you, folks, you've got to check out all those formats that John just mentioned because they all have, in a time where, yeah, there's a lot of content out there. There is, in fact, some may say we're oversaturated, but if you want to see some good, I mean, great quality content, regardless of the format, as he just laid out, you want to go visit all of those social media formats, and you'll see there's something for everyone. Really, there's
Yeah.
something for everyone
A
within
little
those formats.
Olston, a little Trump,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little Guy Fieri, baby. Love piece of taco grease. I'm driving the bus to Flavortown, baby.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There's just a sample, folks, of what you'll find. So, John, before we wrap things up, I've got one last question that I want to ask, and it's the one in the 3, 2, 1. And
Okay,
that
it's the
is,
one.
if you look back at all you've done, all you've
Mhm.
been through, and I so appreciate all the things you've shared with us already, what would you say you're most proud of?
That's a great question. I was asked to speak at the European Parliament,
Hmm.
and that to me, I wanted to be a movie so bad, and I was finally in a lot of those movies, the parody movies, Date Night, Epic Night, Meet the Spartans, and I was like, oh, I want to do that, and it's all these things change over time. I worked for Conan for 5 years, and I used to do the Comic Con show in front of 3,000 people,
Hmm.
and I got to work off Broadway. But when somebody invites you across the ocean I was in politics for a little while. I spent a year as an intern for the United States Senator. When somebody invites you to speak in front of the European Parliament and you're there in Brussels and every country is represented, it just felt like, wow, this is
That's
pretty amazing. I feel very lucky. And I've always felt very lucky and very grateful for everything I've done. Like I said, my dad was a steel worker
Hmm.
in a plant for 35 plus years. I've never had a job.
Hmm.
My
wow.
job is to go upstairs every day and look for work and to market myself and to close deals. So I feel incredibly lucky. And I guess what I'm really proudest of, and this is for every performer, it's like, I am going to do this.
Hmm.
And then you do it.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're so deep into it and it's not maybe going as well as you want, or you need another movie or you need another TV show and you get a little aggravated. But then you look back and you're like, oh, holy crap. I really carved something unique here. And now you have me thinking about all these other things because the Emmy nomination was a pretty big deal. That was a pretty big deal. So I was really excited about that. So I think between those two things, they're kind of probably equally important to me. One was of really great importance because it was a global thing, and the other thing
Yeah.
was I was recognized by the Academy for a nomination. I didn't
Wow.
win, but that's okay.
Yeah. But,
I have the official envelope, I have the official nomination, I have all those little things.
and I also think that, when the things that you're proud of also are within the world of doing with what you love to do, I also think that's the ultimate definition of success. So you got
Oh,
it
100%.
all wraps up together.
Yeah. Yeah. For a poor kid from Ambler to have worked in 12 different countries, stood on stage with the CEO of AT&T, American Express, all these Fortune 100 companies, it is still very, sometimes it's hard to believe,
Hmm.
you know, because as a performer, your career goes like this. It's like this. If you're if I started out, selling shoes at Payless, I'd probably be the VP of sales because when you have a normal job, it's usually like
Yeah.
this. When you're a performer, it is like this. And this is the hardest part you have to get used to. I always tell people when they say, I want to be an actor, I want to be a comedian, I want to do this. I say, you can do it, but it's not going to be like this. Whatever your dad did for a living, your mom
Yeah.
did. Most careers are like this. It's not going to be like that. If you can handle this, specifically when you can handle this down at the
Oh
bottom,
yeah.
here is easy. Here, not so much, because there are days of incredible self doubt. Even now, it's like, can I get a job at 63? Who would hire me? What could I do? Maybe Wetzel's Pretzels will pick me up for a couple of shifts. You know,
No, I totally understand that. And again, John, it has been so much fun. Enjoyed every minute. And again,
thank you.
Maria, how about you? Did you have fun?
I had an awesome time, but I gotta tell you, I have a couple comments. I want to wrap it up with uh, John, you have actually just proven something I've been trying to sell to people that ADHD can be a superpower.
Yes,
It
yes, it
is
is now.
right. It is. I mean, you're just such an incredible inspiration. I mean, again, very hard worker, but I want to hit on some personal things before we wrap up.
I'm a
Uh
Scorpio. I like long walks on the beach, Chinese noodles.
and you like weddings. So, Bill, without my ex-husband and I knowing, my dad had John come to our wedding on April Fool's Day, and he showed up as Charlie Chaplin for the happy hour. And then during the
This
dinner,
is how long ago this was. Charlie
this
Chaplin
was,
was still
So the wedding
you know,
videos in black and white.
yeah, I
no
got the
sound.
wedding video
Yeah,
black and
silent
white.
movie.
You're right, your silent movie. And then he moved on to, we called him Uncle Louie. He was walking around, he was dressed as an old man, and he was just walking around, like stealing Splendas from tables, and just shoving
Ah,
them in his
I was
pockets. And
here. I am at an Italian wedding, and I'm the Jewish uncle. What are you doing? You're sitting in my seat. This chicken is cold. When's
it
the
was
bus
great.
to Atlantic City? I'm a diamond member. Damn it!
It was great. And then for the dance part of the night, he was the nerd who literally got, or
Melvin.
figuratively, whatever it is, he physically got all the people that haven't danced in like decades. He had them all out on the dance floor. And then my father remembered this. I forgot about it. He's dancing with my boss. Okay. And he screams to me, "Hey, Maria, do you have any condoms? I think I'm going to get lucky." And it was just hilarious. So then
Do
after
you know
that,
why I did that joke? Do you know why I did that joke? I did that joke in honor of your father, because during his stand up, during Tony and Tina's wedding, he said, I was at the Wawa, now they're selling condoms, and I had to go to Ace Hardware, and they're selling condoms, and then I went to 7-Eleven to get some coffee, and they're selling condoms. It's a condemnation. So, so that was a callback to his joke.
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Well, and then my favorite is when you did Wayne
yeah, that was
from
so
Wayne's
much fun.
World.
All right,
That
excellent.
was, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing. And you know what? I have to go back and watch the video, because you did the top 10 reasons why I should have married Wayne
Yes,
instead of my husband. And it was stellar. It was
so
killer.
much
It was
fun.
great. I'm so grateful that you were officially my first guest, Bill, on the new show with Bill. And it's just been awesome.
Oh, this is
I'm very
great.
grateful.
Thank you for so much time. Usually these things are like 15, 20 minutes, but this was great.
It
Well,
was supposed to be, but we were
yeah,
having so much fun.
yeah,
You'll
and
chop it into 3 episodes.
yeah, and well, John, you just touched on something that's a pet peeve of mine with the algorithm gods, because we live in a world where anything longer than 90 seconds is considered a feature length film.
Yeah.
But, what I've always tried to do with this show is when we're having a conversation like the one that we just had, I have to put that aside. It's great conversation, which hopefully translate to great content that can help people, that can make people laugh, make people think, and brighten their day, which is why I launched the original show 8 years ago. And this is just taking things down a little bit of a new path. a fun path, and based on today being our first episode, a great path to be on. So, John, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. Maria, I'm looking forward to so much more Phlorida fun. And remember, folks, that's with a PH because we will never forget where we came from in
Oh,
Philly, just like John's got that Temple t-shirt on. So, folks, we thank you for watching. Hope you've had as much fun as we have, and we'll see you the next time.